Diablo 4 just got what's this here, an important update. Thank fucking God. Apparently they're changing barbarians. They're making barbarians good. Because like they were so bad. Like I want you guys to understand this. Barbarian was such a fucking joke that Blizzard had to make a statement on it. They had to make a statement, be like, listen, we see what you see. We get it.
Alright, so we got a lot of news coming for Diablo 4, including a brand new interview with the game's director on Q's class
Beta's become a twisted word. Yeah, by you guys. Because you keep releasing a full game like a beta. Nothing gets changed into beta to the live game. It's just for marketing. That's what Blizzard is the one that makes they originally started using betas as marketing tools. Yeah, no shit.
balance, dungeon design, and a lot more thanks to Eurogamer. Also, a better look at what to expect in the open beta dropping in a couple more days, including fixes, so let's dive right in.
Alright, let's get into it.
Diablo 4's hype level is off the charts. We've seen over 1 million players confirmed for the early access alone.
Isn't that nuts? 1 million people within 3 days hit level 20 on a beta. And this was also the pre-order / double down beta.
Which is quite wild to think about, as this is just for the hardcore peeps who already bought the game or paid for the codes. And it looks like for Blizzard, they've achieved what they wanted, which was to stress test the servers so that they can better prepare for when the game truly comes out. According to Rod Ferguson, general manager for Diablo 4, there have been a number of big fixes over the past weekend that specifically address the long queue times and server instabilities. Furthermore, this was a way for them to prepare for the likely much larger open beta coming up, and then finally the release day, so that any issues found now will be a lot smoother at launch. And indeed, that's what I noticed too, especially in the final early access day. I noticed that queues were pretty much completely gone and stability was much better compared to...
I got lucky. I logged in really early in the morning. I didn't have a queue hardly at all.
Friday night when it all started. So if any issues arise this Friday, expect them to be fixed really soon after. Of course, the good news here is that Blizzard doesn't want these queues either, and ideally on launch day there won't be any. So
basically what we're having today in beta is what we'd like to have for launch. You go in, there's no queue, you go. Yeah, but what did he say after that? Sometimes queues are part of how many servers are available and these sorts of things, but the other side of queues, honestly, is protecting the services. Sometimes you'll put a queue in place just so that if there's one particular service, like writing to the database, that you're not trying to overwhelm. Yeah, okay, so there's probably still going to be queues. Got it. Thanks, Rod. Appreciate that. Okay. We don't want there to be queues, but...
here is for us to just be able to log in and play right away. However, they also talked about the Butcher encounter and some of the other stuff present in the beta, which I found really interesting, especially this one, which was one of the highlights of the beta. Actually, something I like to see more of, and it looks like Blizzard is totally on board with adding more of these encounters in Diablo 4.
Oh, no
so according
doubt.
to the game's director, Joe Shelley, one of the things that can be really fun...
By the way, like, I would, if you put my character up against a Butcher, I kill that thing, I guarantee you in under 10 seconds. I will delete that bitch off the map.
is changing up the player's goal at any given moment, and the treasure goblin does that by running off with a pile of loot that you really want, so you're likely to opt into the extra danger to get it. And the Butcher does that by ambushing you and creating a situation where you're likely to run potentially into other dangers or navigate under pressure. So broadly speaking, in Diablo 4 we're looking for other ways to add that kind of gameplay that changes the player's experience on the fly. We want to add more things like that in the future as well, end of quote. They did clarify there is indeed a minimum level restriction for the spawn, though they did not specifically mention it, plus a few other conditions on top. But mostly this is meant to be a very random...
I feel like this spawn, it feels like an ICD. It's like it's a character ICD, and the more that you play, the higher like that chance goes up over time. And it starts really high. Because both characters I had, and like this is like just, I have no idea, but both characters I had, I ran to them into the same dungeon. So it's like maybe it happens as soon as you hit a certain level, and then it just goes down from there. But I'm not sure. Oh, ICD is internal cooldown.
And very unexpected encounter. And I'm not sure about you, but I really loved the encounter and was lucky enough to get it a handful of times over the first weekend.
Maybe
it was a blast for sure,
totally
but also
random.
a bit scary at first when I was under-equipped for it, clearly. It's like the first time you're almost guaranteed to die because of how unexpected it is and how early it can be in your progression. Meanwhile, it's a lot more satisfying when you get your revenge a bit later once you got a build going and got some better items. I think having more randomness like this in the game can definitely help a ton, especially if it ends up being...
I think it's exciting and fun. It's badass. It's like going into a room. I think one of the best things they added in Diablo 3 were treasure goblin rooms. And like mass treasure goblin spawns in a rift. Like you go in there and you see... It's like, bro... It's like you hit the lottery, and instead of treasure goblins, it's like sevens. You just see 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Right? And it's like a bunch of treasure goblins, and you're like, oh, it's so good.
As rewarding as the butcher or the loot goblins indeed are. But for me, it's always because it lets me test my builds better if the unexpected does indeed happen. Totally let me know down below in the comments if you did encounter this and if at any point did you die during this boss fight. Another interesting subject they touched on, we all know of it, the feedback.
I feel like this shit takes fucking forever, by the way. Like, Blizzard, y'all listen to this? Like, why the fuck, after you kill 5 waves, do more elites not spawn? Like, every wave after the 5th wave of your mastery should spawn a fucking elite that drops gear. But I have to sit there and kill waves of non-elites that I don't care about. It is fucking boring. And, if that's too many of them, then empower the elite that spawns at the end. Because, like, I finished the 5 waves. It says 56. I finish it at, like, 40 seconds. I'm done. I'm level 25. What's it going to be like at 70? It's going to be a joke. So, it would be so much better if they had more elites there, man. That's what makes it exciting. Yeah, make 5 plus harder. Yeah, make it instead of normal mobs, make it all spawn elites. Every single mob's an elite. And you can force quit it. Just think, think of the barbs. True, yeah.
Design was a bit of a mixed bag for a lot of players, and even I voiced my concerns about it feeling a bit samey after a while, especially with a lot of backtracking to grab keys and other similar objectives to unlock the boss doors. Well, it seems that a lot of that is here to stay, unfortunately, and it is made by design. So according to the game's director, again, certainly there are cases within the dungeons where you're going to get a key and then you're going to have to go somewhere else. In cases where you're going to get a key and you're running back through an area, there should be enemies that are showing up to refresh that. According to him, it's the company's goal.
Hold up, wait, let me read it. What do you actually say? We've seen it, a few elements here. Some players, we added the ability to teleport out of dungeons, UI. Some people don't realize that exists. That's not what people are talking about. Certainly, there are cases where within a dungeon, you're going to get a key, and then you're going somewhere else. We don't want players to be running through an empty dungeon. In cases where you're going to get a key and you're running back through an area, there should be enemies that are showing up to refresh that. It's a goal of ours that you're not running through an empty dungeon, basically ever. It can be okay for very short. Bro, the problem is not that it's an empty dungeon. The problem is you're running back to the same area that you were already at. It's got nothing to do with it being an empty dungeon. I would rather it be an empty dungeon. I already fucking been here. I did this. I don't want to go back and do it again, kill mobs again. So now it's like, not only do I have to run back and get the key, but you spawn more fucking mobs on me. This makes it worse. What were you thinking, Joe? What the fuck? Just make it to where if you walk near the key, it automatically loots it. I don't want to sit there and bounce away. Like, it's like, fucking unlock the spinny thing. Oh, okay. So let's unlock the spinny thing. I click on it, I double click on it. Oops, now it's not working anymore. I get hit, it's not working anymore. Why does it have to be a bar? It's not even an animation of him turning the crank. It's just him going like this. Click it and forget it. Worst part is you miss one mob? Yeah, like what the fuck? Like miss one mob. It should be like a total of mobs. It should be like 100 mobs. You got to kill 90 of them. Jesus. Please fucking fix this. It's like it's got nothing to do with it being an empty area. Ugh.
enemies that are showing up to refresh that. According to him, it's the company's goal so that players never have to run through an empty dungeon.
Like, it's just like such a fucking massive disconnect of what the actual it's not about it being an empty dungeon
ever, though if we take a look at the beta, obviously that's not always the case. There were many occasions when you would clear a dungeon only to have to backtrack to grab a bunch of keys or maybe some of those objects to open up doors, which had you run through rooms that were already cleared. Furthermore, he goes on to explain there are well over 100 dungeons in the full game.
But when you think about dungeons overall, there's well over 100 dungeons in the game, and in the beta, of course, you're only seeing the dungeons that exist in the Fractured Peach, which is about 20% of the overworld. One of the design decisions we made is we wanted the dungeons and individual dungeon to have certain properties about it that were consistent, tied to dungeons and not placed in the world. Yes. We get this, bro. We know. The dungeon design is not really that big of a problem. We get it. There's not 20 dungeons. There's like 6. Okay.
Game, but in the beta, what we're seeing is just a fraction of it, about 20% of the overworld. One of the design decisions we made is we wanted the dungeons, an individual dungeon, to have certain properties about it that were consistent and tied to that dungeon and that place in the world. So that,
to be fair, like, I will say this, is that these are such good problems to have. It's like, remember back in Shadowlands where like the problem was like there was like 3 systems that were ruining the entire game? Like, this actually, it's pretty good.
You go into it's not just drawing out a raffle of all the elements. There are some things about it that are consistent, he mentions. So no, I would not keep any hopes high that anything will be changed in this regard by launch day. Not only is this by design, but there's not even enough time to make such a drastic change.
I don't even know if it is by design. I think that they genuinely do not even know what the fucking problem is. Like, some fucking community manager, somebody over there at Blizzard is like not telling them, like, no, it doesn't have to, there's no, so you gotta run back across an empty dungeon. We don't want to do that. Oh, I get it. We'll just fill the dungeon back up. No, man, we don't want to have to run back in the first place. That's to spawn more mobs.
Up until then. Even more so, from the same interview, it seems that Blizzard are mostly going to address this via the end game mechanics, such as the Nightmare Dungeon modes, in which
we want to approach players leveling up, say, if I want to do each of these different dungeons, it's incentivized through things like Codex of Power, Renown system to give you a sort of checklist for all the dungeons you can do. Yeah, you get, whenever you get into the end game, you complete the campaign, get access to Nightmare Dungeon system, and have sigils, modify dungeons really cool ways, buffs and nerfs, and those dramatically modify the dungeon. But because the dungeons are designed with some properties to start with, you can get a sigil for a dungeon, have some context for what it means, not just a random name, that can be anything. Yeah, obviously, dungeon's not going to be super crazy, super unique. I get it. No, it's not a big deal. But, like, just don't make me have to backtrack. Like, I don't really care. Like, in PoE, every Cortex is basically the same. Every Forge of the Phoenix is like exactly the fucking same. You go up and then down and then down and then over and then up again and he's right there. You know, the fucking Maze of the Minotaur, you go, he's right there. Let's see. The Hydra, you go, he's up there. It's the same every time. That's not the problem. You just have to have, these Nightmare Dungeons need to have interesting ways that transform the dungeon. Like, let's think about the most transformative things in Path of Exile. Number 1, Delirium. That's number 1. That's the biggest one. I think, what's it here? Ritual. I would say Ritual is pretty fucking big. Beyond, Scourge. We need things like that. Things that are very transformative. You do a Delirium Maze in the Minotaur, that's a different situation. Hordes of mobs, yeah. And also, like, if the Diablo 4 devs are ever like, should we add 100 mobs or 1,000? Always 1,000. Every time. Always add in 1,000. It's always more mobs. If there's any other way, yep, more mobs. Yep, there it is. Double beyond. Yep, there it is. Double beyond. Easy.
You're going to be using sigils as modifiers to dramatically modify them according to the same interview. Though players who already played the betas that included that endgame content have already expressed concerns that was not enough either, and these modifiers appeared a lot more superficial than the interview makes it seem. According to one user on Reddit who played through the endgame beta, most of these involved percentage changes to the damage you dealt or received, stat increases or decreases, and monster attacks applying different debuffs such as slow, reduced dodge chance, or sometimes
things you can expect. So these are the different limited revives. Okay. You deal more damage. You gain 1 attack speed after killing a monster with 10%. Bro, this doesn't even change shit. Monsters deal more damage as fire. Wow, I wonder where that came from. Monsters take less damage from... Wow, I wonder where that came from. Monsters have reduced vulnerable... Man, I wonder where that came from. Monsters attack slow players. Man, I wonder where that came from. Monster attacks reduce player dodge chance or evasion. I wonder where that came from. Monsters die the suns leave behind a thing that explodes. That's crazy. I mean... like, Delirium didn't come out until, like, what? Like, 2018 or something like that? And, like, PoE had been out for years before then. So, like, I get it that it's going to take a while for them to get shit together. But, like, none of these... Now, you want to make this exciting, you get rid of this parentheses. Now it's exciting. You want to make this exciting... let's see here. This one is fucking annoying. This is just fucking annoying. When monsters die, this is another barb breaker. That's what it is. It's another barb breaker. And that's all that Diablo 4 is. Because a barb is sitting in melee. And then they sit there. But meanwhile, I'm 500 miles away. Bro, my hydras are killing mobs I didn't even know existed. Then the mob blows up underneath the hydra. Bro, the hydra's invulnerable. The hydra's like, wait, what? There was an explosion. I didn't even know that. That's so sad. They've got to stop doing shit like this that just fucks melee.
Monster attacks applying different debuffs such as slow, reduced dodge chance, or sometimes exploding upon death. None of which are going to change that experience in any significant way, except maybe adding a layer of difficulty.
Nah, they gotta add better affixes. Like, how the fuck is this the best they could come up with, man? Like, we could sit here and come up with like 5 affixes that'd be way more fun. And before you say, oh, that'd be overpowered. Bro, anything has a limit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, however broke it... Like, there are things in Diablo 3 that increase your damage by 5,000, and it's not even the best thing in the game. Let's get something more exciting. Let's try something that's a little bit more transformative. Just take exactly what they have in PoE and put that in the game, and then let's go from there. I think Ritual is fucking badass. Let's get more of that.
Not on top. If anything, you'll still have to grab the keys, carry pedestals, or kill all enemies in a dungeon.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, they had Reaping, and like every 100 enemies you kill, at the 100th enemy, it fucking resurrects every other enemy. And then you can put like a Reaping Stone in there, and then at the last boss, it resurrects every fucking enemy in the dungeon and the boss all at the same time. That's right. Because that would be cool.
Before you're able to proceed, no matter what fixes you're getting on them on top. I've seen other interesting quick fixes that could in theory work, such as for example the pedestals that you need to return back at the boss door. And the quick fix according to a user's view is to allow us to carry multiple of them at the same time. This makes it so that if we run into one object and then find
bro,
another...
see, look at this, bro. He didn't even know what's on the screen. It's like, what's the mob type in this tile set? I don't know. I have no idea.
One before we can drop the original one off, we don't have to backtrack all the way back to it and just like grab them all and bring them back to the boss door, which actually sounds like a pretty good theory, and I'm not sure why it doesn't work, though I'm pretty sure that Blizzard might have an explanation for it, such as it being too heavy to be carried. Or maybe even better, to spice things up, why not make that object to attract a lot of like enemies from around the dungeon and have us swarm with enemies so that we don't have a lonely walk back at the main objective. I would definitely love to get that, and maybe it's an even nicer way to farm monsters and get the loot and the XP. Another one is for the kill all monsters in the dungeon.
Oh my god. There's one bat, and you forgot him. Well, he didn't forget you. Now go get him.
Which personally I found to be the most annoying, because always I had one or two groups left in some corner of the dungeon that I didn't even know of.
It's a Den of Evil situation.
The quick fix suggested here is to get a kill a percentage of monster objective instead, kind of like
you know, like the thing that you have in the other game that you make. Wow.
Progress bar, which actually the game already features. So this will dramatically reduce the risk of backtracking or searching for one or two remaining monsters. Really, and we're seeing other suggestions here. It seems that the general consensus is that these mechanics are boring as they are, and it's just level 25. I cannot imagine what will be by level 100. Even
I don't really think, like, the thing is, you can know whether something's going to be interesting or not. You just have to see what the affixes are, and you will know that. Like, the moment that we saw Awakened and Reaping in BFA, remember that? Everybody was fucking excited. We didn't need to, oh, what's it gonna be? What's gonna play like? Nah, bro, it was immediately fucking exciting. It was badass.
More so, what will happen with some of the other dungeons in the other zones. From the wording, it seems that Blizzard might have different mechanics for them, but even in that case, it might just be like a couple, maybe a handful at most, that we're gonna quickly grow tired of.
Oh, we got
so yeah, that's how it's going to be moving forward. But in any case, expect more balance changes, and this was one of the more interesting topics they talked about a bit later on. A lot of changes coming to your favorite classes, including buffs and possible nerfs as well. So Joe Shelley goes on to mention that certain things like the Barbarian's Hammer of the Ancients feel a bit...
It's not, see, like, this is the thing. Frost sorcerers are pretty strong. Yeah, nerf Frost. Yeah, nerf Frost sorcerers. They're too overpowered. Don't do anything about fire hydras or lightning, though. That's fine. Arc Lash is a little weak right now. No classes that are only for really skilled people. We see Campfire lineup. It's not just mechanics you're choosing. It's also class fantasy. So, here's the thing. The reason why it's not fun as a barbarian is because of the fundamental design of the game. So yes, you can make Hammer of the Ancients one-shot every mob. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's annoying that you have to run that mob was running away from you before you got to him to hit him with the hammer. I feel like they have a fundamental misunderstanding with what is annoying in the game. At least what I think is annoying in the game.
Bit underpowered at the moment, while Frost Sorcerers are pretty strong, and I think that's really an understatement. Arc Lash also for the Sorcerer is a little weak right now, and so on, so expect these to change in the future. Sorcerer definitely felt like the headrunner of the beta in terms of mob clearing potential and like even the boss fights in general, though the Rogue wasn't too far off either. What I really appreciate is that they're finally showing some love to Barbarians. This was one of the classes that I leveled up last, but I'm glad I finally did, because once I got a build going and reached 25, it got some really interesting concepts in there, like the Whirlwind build with the tornadoes is definitely awesome against enemies and...
It's fucking garbage. It's a joke. It's bad. Everything about it, like, this is pathetic. This is just really bad. The only good build, in my opinion, was Thorns. I thought that was the only one that was cool.
It's very satisfying, and they also like the Rend plus Thorns mechanic against bosses to make them basically slap themselves to death. However, it's obvious that this is very early character progression and in no way representative of the true endgame, when things might change with every single level.
I'm sure it will.
Again, giving the Barbarian as an example, this class has access to the most amount of weapons, so endgame wise they'll have the most amount of legendary affixes. Who knows, they might even be the best class of them all, but it might also be different. Of course, looking forward to the Druid and Necromancer classes in the following open beta too, so if you want to stay up to date with everything Diablo related...
How the fuck? They're eating too many double downs over there at that fucking office. They need to fucking play a Barbarian and see what it's fucking annoying, man. Content creators making dog shit takes, playing the first act in 2 hours. PK Fire, what did I say? No, you getting put on the spot, bitch. You getting put right up on the spot. Let's go. Come on. Hydra's dog shit after RT3. Barb is the best class in the game as the last in-game beta. So what does that matter? What is the dog shit take? What is it? What is it? What did I say that's wrong? Okay. Let's get it done. My play with in-game and Barb was pretty bad. Well, I mean, let's just see what he says. Let's see what he says. You're defining in-game with 25 levels. That's what's wrong. Let's see what he says, and then I'll address you. Maybe I'll get to you. Yep. It's 26. Half these classes don't even have their main mechanics at 25. The problem is that as a melee class, it sucks to fight an NPC that drops a pool of poison and then it stands in it. This is a mechanic that exists on a fundamental level in the game. It's like line of sight. It's the same at level 1 as it is at level fucking 100. It has nothing to do with the balance. It has to do with the mechanics. The mechanics are the problem. And before you say, compare this to level 25 beta, okay, let's go see right now. Diablo 3 G Rift World Record. Let's see what kind of mobs we've got in the world record. Let's look at 3 of them, all right? Let's look at this one, let's look at this one, and let's look at this one. All right.
Just a few hours. Let me walk you through how we did
Well,
it.
I mean, look at this. Bro, this is the level 1 area.
So, just right away, want to say thank
These
you
are the
to all
level
my
1
teammates.
areas. I mean, look at these guys. These are the Act 3 brutes. Look at this. It's the level 1 areas.
Meanwhile, I am going to scout ahead and let my team know
but it's the
what all we have, and I'm going to bring the forward.
It's a Rift
backward, and
150
help
though.
Spear any last monsters around in so vanquish.
Oh wow!
Them. And of course, we have a Dark Hellion festering, which really.
Oh look at wait hold up. What was that? Oh no! That wasn't the big hammer brutes from Act 2 that you encounter at level 25, at maybe less. I think it is. Let's look at another one.
Let me walk you through how we did it.
Oh, this is the same video. Let's see the mobs we got going on here. Oh, wow. The Goatmen. You mean the Goatmen from Act 1? So if the mobs are bad, you will deal with that bad mob for the entire game. It doesn't matter if you're in Act 1, you just hit max level, you're doing rifts, you're doing levels, you will deal with these same fucking mobs for the entire game. Let's take a look here. What do we got here? Those are Act 5. Those are from the expansion. What do we got? Oh, yeah, we skipped them. Oh, look at this. We've got skeletons. Oh, we've got quill... Oh, look at that. Quill boars. But, guys, the quill boars are only level 14. Bitch, this quill boar could one-shot Diablo. That's the way the game works. So if these mobs are annoying or hard to deal with, or more importantly, unfun to deal with at a low level, they will be bad at a high level. Let's see if this guy said at least give it a chance. Painting with broad strokes. I don't need to. It's not. You talk about painting with broad strokes. How about Blizzard that's painting with broad strokes, putting a mob from Act 1 in an end-game rift? You think it's going to be a different mob? No, it's not. It's going to be the same fucking mob. If these mobs are annoying at level 5, they're going to be annoying at max level. God damn. Like, here comes the walk back? Yeah, because I'm not wrong. Like, I played the fucking game. I know how the game works. So suicide spider mobs in PoE, rippy map mobs, easy rip, yeah. Such an annoying rationale trying to level Barb, but I can't play solo without it becoming tedious. Why should it be unenjoyable for me to play the first 25 levels? That's a very good point. That is a very, very good point. I want to emphasize what you just said. Why is it okay for a barbarian to have a noticeably inferior leveling experience than other classes? Because there are going to be people that want to play a barbarian and they're going to enjoy the game less. That's it. Because it is actually that simple.